Tonight, as you know, is our community night, and I thought it would be good to just start with a recognition of our community. Look, here we are. Look around, folks. These are our brothers and sisters, our community. We all share the same love for the Dharma, the same commitment to our practice, our inquiry together. Just look around. And we're all a little bit different, you know? It's not exactly the same for any one of us, or any two of us. Here we are. And so just take a moment and just feel how it feels to be a part of this. To have a home where you can practice and inquire together. Here we are. So tonight is our community night. You will hear from many voices tonight. Some will be familiar to you, and others maybe less so. We have listened carefully, and we hope that as you listen tonight, you hear your own views reflected in what you hear. We also hope that you hear something new. Something from one of your fellow IMCC members who may have a new suggestion or a slightly different view of who and what our community is and how we all can continue to evolve and grow in the months and the years ahead. So we'll move to our community. Bill, you have a bit of introduction for us.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to see everyone. We have over 50 people on the Zoom. Thanks for coming, spending your precious time. I'm Bill Detmer. For those of you that don't know me, I've been a member of IMCC for about 12 years. I'm on the board of directors, and I've had the distinct pleasure for the last 4 or 5 years to be the non-teaching board representative of the Guiding Teachers Council, the group that does all the work of deciding what our teaching program is in all ways. And you'll be hearing from most of them tonight. My job is just to kind of kick off the evening and then pass it around. The goals are pretty simple. Really 2 things: to share and to invite. So let's talk about sharing. What we plan to share with you is the results of the survey, sangha survey that was done last September, and reflect that back with some analysis and a little bit of interpretation, but mostly to report back to you. In addition, to kind of report to you some of the things that have been going on within IMCC and our programs that you may know a lot about and you may not. So to share with you that. The second part is the invitation. And in fact, this is the most important part. This is the beginning, or let's say a new beginning of a period of reflection and discussion amongst us about our future. It's always what an organization does. But as we move in that direction, we want you to be part of it as much as you are compelled to do. And so tonight, you'll have the opportunity to hear what others have said in the survey, but also to express yourself in groups at the end of the evening. And again, this is just the beginning. So let me leave the intro with another invitation. And that is, if sometime during this evening, you have what you might call a stirring, something that grabs you, something that makes you sing or not, something that really connects with you about IMCC, what we're doing, what we're thinking of doing, or what we're not doing. Think about that as a moment of possible generosity. In the classic, at least the way that I learned it, the beauty of generosity is when you first have the impulse, act on it or commit. So if you have a stirring tonight, in any way, we hope it will be your opportunity to think about how you can contribute going forward to the future of IMCC. Because as you know, this is mostly a volunteer organization. You're going to hear from our hero, Judy Harman, who is our part-time operations manager. But it's largely the community of volunteers that makes things happen. So we welcome you to be part of that. And with that, I will hand it over to Judy Harman.
Hi, everybody. I'm Judy Harman. I'm the operations director, as Bill said, and I've been with IMCC for 5 years. And it's been my pleasure to be here. So as Bill and Sharon have said, one of the reasons we're here tonight is to review the feedback that we got from you when we did our Sangha survey, which we actually did in June. It was initiated by the Guiding Teachers Council. Part of the reason for doing it was inquiring with you what your wants were in terms of teaching. That was one of the main motivations, was about teaching and how that aligned with what our resources are, that being teachers, the teacher time, the teacher's expertise, the teacher's interests, what do they want to do? But it wasn't limited to teaching issues. We asked a few demographical questions, who are we? What do we look like? What do you feel about the space that we meet in? Do you find IMCC to be a welcoming space? Do we meet your spiritual needs? So you're going to hear a bit about each of those things and a few others tonight from our array of speakers. A little bit of background on the governance of IMCC so you can understand how decisions get made. We don't want to be a black box. We want to be transparent as much as we can. And that's one thing we heard in the survey was, while we might feel like it's obvious what we're doing, it may not actually be that obvious. So we're always working towards more transparency. So first of all, I think you all know that we have a board of directors. It's a group of your peers. They're people from the community, as well as teacher representatives. And the work of the board is, for one thing, they provide financial oversight to the organization. How do we use the generous donations that you've made to IMCC to operate? How do we support our teachers? How do we offer programs? The flip side of that, they work on fundraising. You've heard them over the course of the past 4 or 5 weeks telling you, why we hope that you would give to us so that we can continue offering what we do. And they provide broad oversight to the policies and procedures that we operate under. One example is pretty clear. Once the pandemic started, we had many emergency board meetings. What do we do? How do we keep the community safe? How do we keep going? Now we're pivoting to, when do we come back? What are the conditions that are right for us? So that's the work of the board. Within the board, there are several subcommittees. They provide guidance and recommendations back to the board about particular areas of their expertise. So we have a finance committee. Their work is probably pretty obvious. We have a care committee that reaches out to members who are in need. They may be ill, they might have a loved one who's ill and needs some support. They may be lonely and want a phone call. A wide variety of concerns, and we want to be there to support each other. We have an ethics and reconciliation council. It's abbreviated EAR. It's been around for a long time and historically has been a space to provide confidential consultation when there's a conflict or an ethical concern within the community. More recently, they've been reviewing their mission and contemplating how they can be more proactive in the Sangha. So you'll be hearing more about that in the weeks and months to come. And in 2021, we established the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice Committee. Previously, we have had a racial affinity coordinator and a group of volunteer leaders, and we folded that into and expanded into what we call the DEIJ committee. And you've heard from them in this past year as well. They presented one evening their statement of purpose. They asked for your feedback. They've held focus groups. So they're really still getting their feet on the ground to lead us in that area. So that's all functions of the board and their subcommittees. And then as Bill mentioned, we have a guiding teachers council, which has 6 teachers and a board representative, and they oversee all aspects of teaching. And one of the main areas that they've been working on for the past several years, as we look towards the future, is supporting the development of new teachers. Who will be the spiritual leaders of IMCC when our senior teachers retire? Last year, about a year ago exactly, we graduated 3 people who participated in a year-long Dharma study program with our teachers and were mentored by our teachers. You know, Liz Reynolds and Mary Louise, they've been teaching off and on for the past year. We appreciate them very much. And Anna Van Hoy was also in the program, and she teaches over in the Valley. And we hope to have her back sometime at IMCC. And then there's me. You see me every week. You get emails from me every week. So I'm work on day-to-day operations and details. I keep the trains running on time. So that was a bit of context about how we work. And now let's move on to the survey. As I said, it was initiated by the teachers, but it wasn't limited to teaching. And we shared your feedback with the board, the teachers, the committees, and each group has contemplated how they can contribute to responding to your needs and supporting the community as we evolve. So as we approach the end of 2021, the leadership team and myself are aware that there's a larger change on the horizon as some of our leaders are approaching a time when they may be stepping back from the large roles that they've had at IMCC for many years. They've given so much of their time, energy, and wisdom, and I know there's much gratitude and affection for them. And as a community, we need to prepare for transition to sustain the community and its offerings. And that's what tonight is for. Our time to reflect as well on an opportunity to look at where we are, where we want to be, and how do we get there. So as Sharon said, you're going to hear from many voices. And after we review the results of the Sangha survey, we'll break into small conversation groups where you can reflect on what you've heard, what you think about IMCC in the present and in the future. So thank you very much for coming. And I am going to start a PowerPoint slide presentation, and then we will go from there. So bear with me for a minute. So we received 90 surveys back, and we thank you very much. That we were very pleased with that result. And we, sorry, I need my notes. So the 90 surveys that we got reflect kind of a point in time. Where were we when we administered the survey? It was June. Things with COVID looked a lot different in June than they did now. Yes, we were happy with 90 responses, but there's more than 90 people who attend IMCC. So they're a snapshot, and there's more to it than that, because we know that we are continually welcoming new people. So we need to continue to evolve from these results. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bill Detmer again.
Thanks, Judy. Just have a few things to add as we move through here. The demographics were maybe as you might expect them, older age. And here you see that 2/3 are over the age of 60, at least of the respondents, and only 8% under the age of 40. And as you'll hear about later, this is an area of great discussion and opportunity for IMCC going forward. The other demographic information you might find interesting had to do with years of practicing. You'll see that a large percentage have been practicing more than 10 years. That suggests a couple of things. One is that our respondents are dedicated members, and also that there are needs for programming to address those who are further, let's say, along the path. At the same time, you'll see that there is at least a quarter that are in the less than 5-year range. And many of you have come in during the time of COVID, and we really welcome you to be part of IMCC, and thank you for finding us. So we have an opportunity and a bit of a challenge to try to address different audiences based on years of practicing to help with this. Now, I conflated a little the years practicing and the years at IMCC, but they're really similar themes, that we have people who are very experienced or more experienced than people who are just beginning, and we have people who are just started with us and people that have been with us for a long time. And so you could imagine that creates opportunities for us to figure out how to address everyone's needs by offering a range of programming. And tonight will be a great opportunity for you to express your opinion on what we should offer. Now I'll hand it over to Mary Louise.
Thanks, Bill. Hi, everyone. It's good to be with you tonight to talk about our community. I'm going to talk a little bit about the questions in the survey about what programs people are most interested in. What we heard was that people are most interested in the Dharma talks, either by IMCC teachers or our guest teachers, as well as courses on Buddhist topics or meditation practice. And now the interest in guest teachers might have been highlighted in this past year because in 2020, we were able to invite guest teachers from diverse backgrounds, and that was made a lot easier because we were doing this on Zoom and people could Zoom in from all over the country. And I want to particularly thank Liz Reynolds, who spearheaded inviting some wonderful teachers who we've heard over the last year, and some book groups. And people really are asking for more of that kind of presentation. We also heard that people were interested in advanced practice programs. In 2021, we offered 3 different types of classes: the Foundations of Meditation class, the Racial Awakening for White-Bodied Folks class, and a Buddhist history course from the Buddha to the Dalai Lama. And in response to people's requests for more of this kind of programming, we're planning for more courses in 2022. Also wanted to mention there were some of the programs that didn't get as many, say, votes in this survey were those that were for particular affinity groups. So because not everyone is eligible to participate in the young adult sangha or the people of color sangha, not everyone highlighted it as something they're most interested in, but several people made it a point to say, even though this isn't something I participate in, it's something I care deeply about and want to see our community offer. So there was a lot of support for those programs as well. The survey also indicated an interest in spiritual friends groups or KM groups, these small groups so that people can gather to discuss their practice or discuss Dharma readings. And in 2020, we rejuvenated our Spiritual Friends program by preparing written guidelines, by forming 3 new groups, and by assigning mentors for each group. And then with regard to social engagement, people have a lot of interest there. And we've mentioned a bit already about our organizational efforts, involvement with the Clergy Collective and Impact. And in addition, the DEIJ committee that Judy talked about is also contemplating how individual actions might be guarded by the Dharma and the Sangha. So that's the information we sought on programs. And I'm going to pass next to one of our founding teachers, Susan Stone.
Thank you very much, Mary Louise. I'm really glad to be here with you tonight and to have been invited to make a few comments, which I will, and say that back in the very early days, Pat and Sharon and I would sit around my dining room table and we made decisions, discussed what our program at IMCC would be, pretty much all the way around. The foundation of our planning, the foundation was always the Buddha Dharma. That is the Buddhist teaching, and particularly the Buddhist teaching in the Theravadan tradition. That is tradition that we all know that mindfulness sprang from. We are now beginning to broaden our focus, as you've been hearing, to include social justice, environmental, and other important issues. And I'd like to point out that as we do, the ground hasn't changed. I thought about Joseph Goldstein, one of the pioneer teachers in our tradition in the United States. And he pointed out that the Buddha Dharma, the Buddhist teaching, is like a trellis. He said it's a framework around which our lives are like vines. They grow, they express, each uniquely, and all are supported in whatever way they express by the ageless wisdom and compassion of the Buddhist teachings. So in the many issues that we are going to be engaging with at IMCC and already are at IMCC and elsewhere in our lives, and through all the challenges that we'll be facing, I hope that collectively and individually, we'll remember to stay grounded, lovingly and very tenderly grounded in the Buddha Dharma and the beautiful blossoming that follows from it. So I'll just close and say, if anyone finds this shift, this broadening of focus at IMCC confusing, you are invited, please, to ask your questions. It's a standing invitation. We'd like to make it clear as we go on, and some things aren't always clear. We going on, but please feel free to ask. So thank you very much.
Good evening, friends. I'm Jeff Frazier, if I don't know you. I am one of the teachers. I'm also the president of our board. I wanted to talk a little bit about our programming and our meeting situation because it's an ongoing question. We had to really scramble back in March of 2020 when COVID hit because we wanted to continue programming. So really overnight, we moved the whole Sangha presentations, meetings to Zoom, to the virtual platform. And that included the noonday sits, which had been happening Wednesdays and Fridays at the Jefferson School, went to our noon Zoom community sits, and as well as our Tuesday night as we're meeting tonight. What you told us in the survey was very clearly that you wanted to keep the noon meetings virtual, and that is our plan for several reasons. One, it's been highly successful. The response to folks sitting at noon has online has far exceeded numbers that we were getting in person at the Jefferson School. We've also attracted folks from all over the country, literally all over the world in some instances, to our Zoom sit. And it's really become its own community. It's become a very strong sangha with a core group of about 15 or 20 people and lots of folks coming and going. We've had a wonderful response from community members, not just teachers, to lead every day. We're now 7 days a week. We were only 2 days a week, as you may know, at the Jefferson School. So 7 days a week from 12 to 1, we have a gathering where we have a meditation, sometimes a teaching, an offering, a discussion. It's just been a wonderful, wonderful addition to our programming. So that will continue. That will, for all the reasons that I gave in terms of folks that can't get out, folks that live away from Charlottesville, we want to continue to offer them that daily practice. I couldn't be more pleased, both as a teacher and as a board member and as president of the board, with how that offering has been received. You also, there's ongoing, there'll be some comments later about meeting space. We keep pushing that forward. Right now, we have no alternative meeting space to Java, but even that remains on hold, again, because of concerns about COVID, but also concerns about folks that won't be able to attend in person, either because they don't drive at night or they live away. So it's very likely that our model going forward, once we begin to meet live, wherever that is, will be a hybrid model. We'll offer it both online and in person as we go forward. The survey suggested that we were pretty evenly split between, there's the numbers there on the board, pretty evenly split about how to meet. 54% wanted to meet in person. You know, we really do miss that element of being together in person because of the virtual format. But then there's a large group, almost half, that like the virtual format for all the reasons that I've mentioned. So the first priority will always be moving forward with live meetings, will be the health and safety of our members. The second priority will be trying to serve everyone that wants to come to our meetings, partake of the teachings, so that we don't exclude anyone. So we're just walking that fence. We will keep you apprised of our plans for when and if, not if, but when we open. You know, we're really at the mercy of the epidemic, the pandemic, and we will just play that by ear, following CDC guidelines. We will continue to look at space, which Barb's going to speak to in a moment. But I'll leave it there. But you did let us know. We listened to you. We heard you in terms of what the offerings are, the format they'll take. The final thing I'll say is about retreats. Stay tuned. We're planning to have some day-long retreats and hopefully residential retreats in 2022. Again, all contingent upon the status of the pandemic. Many of us, myself included, are hungry for residential retreats, but we can only do that when the facilities reopen and we feel that we can offer those safely. So I will close and I will pass it on to Barb to talk about space considerations. Thanks.
Hi there. Nice to see you all. I'm Barb Maley. I'm also on the board of directors, and I'm going to talk a little bit about space. In the survey, you were asked about the current space and where you are, what you like about it, don't like about it, where you'd like to meet, where you would like to not meet, or you'd not like to meet. And so I think it's pretty interesting that if you look at these numbers, 3/4 of people are either happy with Java or don't care. And but this last quarter really would like to meet in a different space. 8% would strongly like to meet in a different space. And I think, there's been a lot of searching for space. It's pretty hard to come by in this town that is, available, affordable, and accessible. So given the circumstances at this point, it seems like going forward, maybe we'll be back at Java. I'm glad, Jeff, that you said when, not if we meet in person. Sometimes it feels like if. And so, Java, I think we could do a lot to Java to make it feel more like a Buddhist setting. I mean, we do some things, we have statues, we have a chime. We've tried different times to hang up our IMCC sign, but it's pretty heavy and hard to hang. But it has a lot going for it. It is convenient. It has adequate parking, which is a very big concern for folks. And it's affordable. They've been incredibly generous in what they charge. And again, I do think we can do more with that space, spiritually conducive setting, because that was something that was important. And 75%, 3/4 of people that responded said they would be comfortable meeting in a place of worship, such as a church or synagogue. And I know that those are much more affordable options. So it's good to know that the majority of people would be okay with that if that's where we end up going. So, my sense is there's drawbacks to staying at Java. There's benefits to staying at Java. But regardless, I think that we can do a lot with that space if that's where we end up being for a while. Of course, that will mean having more volunteers to help set it up. So there's that. So the location, has been one factor that, as IMCC has been inquiring into whether we're inclusive and to what extent and how open and welcoming. And, we're looking at that space as a factor, in addition to all the other factors that may have an impact on whether people feel welcome and included, and that it's an open, easy access place. So we're going to keep looking at space and incorporating that into our ongoing inquiries into being inclusive and ideally more diverse. And with that, I turn it over to Laura.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Hi, I'm Laura DeVault. I'm also on the board, and I'm going to talk with you about retreats. I started as a retreat manager, I don't know how many years ago, but many years ago. And pre-COVID, we offered fall and spring residential retreats at Serenity Ridge, and we learned that 50% of those of you who responded annually attend 1 or 2 residential retreats a year, and 50% of you who responded rarely or never attend residential retreats. Someday I will get on my soapbox for you about retreats, but hold that thought. We also asked about day-long or half-day retreats, and 50% of you attend 1 or 2 of those a year, with an additional 13% attending 3 or more, and then 30% rarely or never attending them. And so this is really useful information for our Teachers Council as they decide what sorts of retreats to offer. I'm happy to tell you that we are planning a spring retreat in 2022 at Serenity Ridge, residential, from Thursday till Sunday, to be taught by Sharon Beckman Brindley and Hugh Burns, The dates are April 28th to May 1st. Save the dates. And if you are one of those 50% who never attend residential retreats, still, save the date. We'll talk more about retreats and you might change your mind. Liz Reynolds and I, the retreat managers, have already had preliminary meetings with Serenity Ridge, and we want to assure you that they have implemented new safety protocols, including single rooms for all retreatants, with the exception of partners sharing a room. They have been terrific partners to IMCC over the years. It's wonderful to work with them, and they're as eager to have us back as we are to be there in their beautiful space. And with that, I will pass to Anne Marie.
Good evening, fellow Sangha members, spiritual friends. It's wonderful to be here with you tonight. I serve IMCC in various capacities, and I'm just really excited to be exploring Sangha with you in this way tonight. I have been invited to share some of the responses to the question, does IMCC meet your spiritual needs? And it kind of went through the perspective of your spiritual life and being in community with one another. When asked if IMCC was meeting your spiritual needs, about 50% cited that yes, it was, and noted various ways that this happened, including getting to know one another, fellow travelers on this Buddhist path. Also, small groups and noontime meditation sessions were another way in which people felt like their spiritual needs were being met. A lot of people really appreciated the 2021 Advanced Practitioner Program. And many of you participate in racial affinity groups and appreciate diverse guest teachers. These were various ways that people felt that their spiritual needs were being met. Of course, that means that there is the other side of the other 50%. And it's concerning to us that about half of the respondents felt that their spiritual needs were either partially being met or not being met. And what were some of the reasons for that? Well, some of the reasons were that we were meeting virtually only. And of course, we missed being physically present with one another. Other folks felt as if felt a real kind of hunger for more opportunities for advanced practice. There are also Sangha members who have families and children at home and wish that we were offering things for families. And there also are people who are really interested in ritual practices and incorporating that into our practices together. We're contemplating right now ways that we might better meet your needs, and we are hoping to develop resources for additional programs, including things such as advanced practice and things for younger members. So this is part of what we're really digging into right now. I also, from a personal perspective, when I was kind of mulling this over, was thinking about the spiritual path not being a kind of one-sided thing, but more of a circle of giving and receiving. So invite all of us to contemplate what we are investing in our spiritual practice, but also what we're investing in our Sangha and our fellow members' spiritual practice, and how that may deepen our own spiritual needs being met. So just more things to chew on and contemplate. And with that, I pass it on to Shannon to talk to us about belonging. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Excuse me. My name is Shannon Williams, and I am a newer member to the board. And I'm, grateful to be able to be here tonight. I'm going to be speaking with you all about the belonging section of the survey. We wanted to inquire on the survey if you felt a sense of belonging here at IMCC, because we certainly want our community to feel welcoming and for everyone to feel that this could be their spiritual home. Over 70% of you do feel a sense of belonging at IMCC. Some of the reasons that you gave were, we're a friendly and welcoming community, the ability to connect in small groups, the noon sangha was again mentioned. Also, the young adult sangha was specified as an important part of belonging for some of you. And also mentioned was participating in racial awareness and social justice activities. As many as about 30% of you said that you either do not feel a sense of belonging or that you have mixed feelings. And some reasons are not being able to meet in person, not feeling represented by the teachers or in the sangha, specifically because of age or race, lack of offerings for families, and feeling left out of groups that seem to have long-standing relationships. Also, groups that are too large kept some of you from feeling more of a sense of belonging. And some of you felt pressured to engage in social justice activities, and some sense that there was a lack of transparency around board work and finances. This information is very important to us. There are things that we can address quickly, like becoming more transparent about the board and finances. Financial information is posted after all accounts have been reconciled at the end of the year, but we can improve on that by giving more frequent updates throughout the year as to how we're doing. And we are preparing to regularly post board meeting dates so that you could attend, and we welcome you to do so. And we are also planning on sharing our minutes on the website after the board meeting so that you can feel included and up to date. While we have made some steps to better represent our Charlottesville community, it will be a process of engagement and organizational self-reflection to really create that arc towards truly embodying a more diverse membership. For now, the Young Adult Sangha has brought new, younger people to IMCC, and organizationally, we have made steps to empower those voices by inviting them to leadership roles on the board and in the teaching team. And with that, I will pass on to Sharon.
Thank you, each. All of these wonderful voices, as Susan mentioned, for many years, the three of us, Pat and Susan and I, met just sipping tea every few months. We'd meet once in a while around Susan's kitchen table and plan the teachings, and we've come a long way. We've come a long way. Even to the point of some of the inquiries now. So I know that I speak for all of the teachers in gratitude for what you all are accomplishing, what we have accomplished together, and in support for the transitions. We know that there is movement to exciting new adventures together, and just to know that as the teachers discuss those and touch into those at our at our gatherings, that there's just heartfelt support for whatever those transitions may bring. And so with that, I would pass it to Liz, who will guide us in our next section.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Reynolds. I'm a teacher here, a new teacher. And I also have the honor, along with Julie Convisor, of being a co-chair of the EAR committee, which is the Ethics and Reconciliation Committee. We are moving, as you heard earlier, the EAR committee is moving forward and being a bit more proactive in our role as a listening body, hearing what the Sangha has to say. And in that spirit, we'll be moving now into some breakout group sessions. And our EAR members, along with several other Sangha members, are going to be facilitating these groups. So in each group, there will be one facilitator. We're shooting for about 3 Sangha members in each group. And we are going to be, the facilitators are going to be taking some notes about what is said in these groups, what is shared and what is alive for each of us as we've moved through this evening. It's been a lot of information, so we'll have some time to process as a group, hear what others, what resonated with others, and yeah, we really want to be responsive and receptive to what's alive for the community after we've shared all that we have this evening. So I have some guiding questions here. I'm going to put them in the chat for everyone to see. They're quite broad. The 2 questions we'll be focusing on in these breakout groups are which themes of the survey stand out to you and why? And the second one is, how does the idea of IMCC's transition resonate in your heart, in your body, and in your mind? It is my honor to kind of finish us out for our last 5 minutes here. First, I just want to say thank you to you all for the breakout group I was in was very open with feedback and sharing responses. We're just so grateful for your presence and for your contributions, however they are for each of us. Before I end us with a brief sit, I want to say thank you so much to Judy. Her spirit is in every inch of this evening. It would not have happened without her. And Judy, I know you get squirmy, but we got to do it. Thank you. Yeah, thank you to Judy. And second only to Judy is Sharon. Sharon really puts so much of her time and energy into this. Yeah, again, for Sharon, thank you, really. 20 years you have been here, so thank you. And to all of our facilitators, all of our speakers, thank you for your time and energy, your gifts of service. We have very few minutes, but I would like to close us out with a moment of coming together in our practices. So whatever that looks like for you as you settle into this sense of community that we've been focusing on this evening. There could be some awareness of our individual selves and our communal selves. So visible on the screen, and perhaps a felt sense of this in our bodies. You might notice the ground beneath us, offering support. And from the support of the earth, it is more accessible at times to open our hearts. Perhaps taking a moment to notice the heart center. It could be an awareness of the beating of the heart. And as we end our time here together, noticing if the body and the mind and this heart are inclined to offer some loving kindness. Perhaps some loving kindness or metta to ourselves, the depth of our practices, our contributions to the sangha. Also some loving kindness to the sangha, all its members, and then extending just one more step outward is this idea of sangha, those in the past, the Asian contemplatives who safeguarded these traditions, these teachings for centuries. The sangha of the present, not just our small sangha here, but all contemplatives in this present day. And finally, some loving kindness for all future contemplatives, and for all beings, past, present, and future. Thank you all.